Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Dyslexia Global Conversation. We are so happy to have you here, and it would be really good to know where you are joining us from. So please start putting in the chat where you are joining us from. So we are here to have a really enriching conversation. We are going to be hearing from some phenomenal people. So let me start by introducing myself and then tell you a bit about why we're here and what we're going to be doing. So my name is Justina Asafwaje, and I am the Inclusion Lead for Africa Dyslexia Organization. Africa Dyslexia Organization is an organization based in Ghana, but truly with a reach and a love for the whole of Africa. And the organization primarily is about raising awareness of dyslexia and learning differences, and bringing into the conversation and into the forefront of all dialogues and narratives the importance of dyslexia-friendly environments, education, and workplaces. So let me firstly wish you all a happy Dyslexia Awareness Month. So this whole month of October has been dedicated to raising the awareness of dyslexia. And I don't know about you, but it's been phenomenal. It's been so amazing watching the celebrations, the education, the awareness, and more daily, more and more people are talking about dyslexia. What is dyslexia? How do you support a dyslexic child or adult? I think my child or adult might be dyslexic. I think I might be dyslexic. What do I do? How do I go about it? As a teacher, how can I support all of my students in my class? And the conversations have been so enriching. And this evening, you're going to hear from the trailblazers who have paved the way to enable these conversations to happen across the continent of Africa. So, without further ado, I want to be able to just give you kind of a bit of an insight into how we're going to run the evening. So we're going to get to hear from these phenomenal people that you've got in front of you now. We're going to hear their journey. We're going to hear how they got to be here, how they got from an idea somewhere to actually setting up and running and being leaders in the field within the continent. And then we're going to get into the conversation. So please do start thinking about the questions that you've got, and start posting them in the chat, because we are going to have a good amount of question and answer time where we'll be able to really delve into the questions that you've got. But firstly, I'd like to introduce our panel of workers. I'd like to tell you who they are and how comes we have them here with us. So let me start with our executive director, Rosalind Abigail Chernati. So I'm just going to just read quickly her bio for you. And I'm going to make sure I read it because I don't want to miss anything out, because everybody has got so much in them. I want to make sure that I get it completely correct and my neurodiversity doesn't take me off on a tangent. So Rosalind Abigail Chernati is a transformative advocate for dyslexic individuals across Africa, and she is the founder and executive director of the Africa Dyslexia Organization, otherwise known as ADO. A dyslexic herself, Rosalind champions systemic change in both education and career development, empowering teachers, parents, and individuals with tools for academic and professional success. She holds an MSc in International Hospitality and Management from the Swiss Hotel Management School, and serves as lead consultant at IQ Mondo and country representatives for the Swiss Education Group in Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Her work is dedicated to creating an inclusive future where dyslexic individuals can thrive in both schools and workplaces. Rosalind, thank you so much. Welcome. And thank you for setting the pace, as our young people would say. So we're going to hear more from Rosalind shortly.
Thank you.
So next we have Oladayin. Can we see? Okay. I can't see her right now. So I'm going to jump to Dr. Abe, and I'll come back to Oladayin shortly. So Dr. Abe Mesel-Mekonnen is an associate professor of clinical linguistics at Addis Ababa University and the founding managing director of FANA Ethiopia, an organization focused on learning and communication disabilities. His research spans child language development, speech and language disorders, and specific learning disabilities. Alongside his academic work, Dr. Abe is dedicated to community service, raising awareness among educators and advocating for individuals with learning and communication challenges. He has authored numerous publications on both academic and practical aspects of his field. Dr. Abe, welcome. We are so honored to have you join us.
Thank you for the
So,
generous introduction.
you are more than welcome. So, guys, those of you who are watching, you will see that the screen is kind of moving around and doing lots. Technology is trying to do its best not to make us be great, but we will overcome and we will persevere. So please bear with us as you see the screens moving around and people coming in and out. Please be rest assured we are absolutely here with you and the conversation will continue, but technology is trying to do what it does whenever we in Africa try to rise and do something amazing. So don't worry, we shall overcome. Okay, so
Once again,
um I'm going to jump to Blessing. Who have I got on? Ola, Oladoyin, you're here, so I can actually do you now. So Oladoyin Idiwu is a mental health professional and founder of One World Africa Foundation with a BSc in psychology from Redeemers University, Nigeria, and membership in the British Psychological Society. Oladoyin has over 8 years experience. Oh, sorry, excuse me. 8 years experience advocating for dyslexia and neurodiversity. She has trained thousands of educators and parents on managing learning differences effectively. Her expertise includes psychological first aid, cognitive behavioral therapy, and trauma-informed care. Featured by BBC Africa and recognized by the United Nations Academic Impact, Olodoyin is currently leads as head of operations at Serenity Nigeria, promoting mental well-being and inclusive education. Olodoyin, welcome. We are very honored to have you with us.
Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
I'm going to move. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm going to move on to Blessing. Blessing in Giapi. I already told the guys before we started, and I said, you know what, my English accent is just doing too much when it comes to calling people's names. So I apologize in advance. So please, your fellow country people, please know that it's with love. So forgive me for my English pronunciation. So Blessing is an internationally certified special needs educator, dyslexia coach, and founder of Dyslexia Help Africa. With training in Autumn Gillingham educator levels, CADET, Cadet Academy, and Nessie Learning, she is recognized as Dyslexia Teacher of the Year 2021 by Dyslexia Trust, Nessie UK, and named one of Africa's top 50 women in development by Donors for Africa. Blessing advances dyslexia awareness through seminars, teacher training across Africa. Blessing, welcome. Welcome. And Jiranji, welcome back, Jiranji. So Jiranji Campos is a dyslexic advocate and founder of Able Foundation Dyslexia Malawi. Inspired by her own experiences with dyslexia and her niece's challenges in school, an HND Business and PR graduate from Leeds Metropolitan University, UK, and Eden College, Ireland, she is certified in Applied Behavior Analysis, ABA, and trained in dyslexia support. Through Dyslexia Malawi, Jiranji leads awareness campaigns and educational events promoting understanding of dyslexia across Malawi. She also serves as an event coordinator for the International Women's Association of Malawi and is actively involved with orphanages in Lilongwe. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have I missed anyone? Is there anyone that I didn't introduce yet? I think I've got everybody. And so, ladies and gentlemen, these are your panelists. These are the trailblazers that we are going to be having conversations with. I can see Cordence is on, but I can't see his video just yet. So, Lola, did we do you?
No.
We haven't done that. Hey, how have I missed my sister? 1 second, please. Okay, and Phyllis. Is Phyllis here? Excellent. Right. So Lola Aneke is a dedicated special education professional and founder of Cadet Academy and Dewdrops Community Center in Nigeria. She holds a master's in teaching with a focus on special education and is currently a PhD candidate in special education at the University of North Texas, specializing in learning disabilities and behavior disorders. Lola is a teaching fellow at UNT and former consultant for UNICEF and Cambridge Education. Lola has trained over 5,000 individuals in special education across Nigeria. Her research emphasizes culturally responsive interventions and teacher training. Named a top 50 global neurodiversity evangelist, she has been featured by Al Jazeera and BBC Africa and produces digital content to promote special education awareness across Africa. Welcome. We are so honored to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
And Phyllis, thank you. Phyllis Murray, founder of Dyslexia Organization Kenya. Phyllis is the director and founder of Dyslexia Organization Kenya, a passionate advocate for individuals with dyslexia. Inspired by her journey as a parent of a dyslexic child, with over a decade of experience, she leads DOK as a social enterprise, offering training and development for individuals, schools, and communities affected by dyslexia. Phyllis holds an MBA in social entrepreneurship, a master's in child development, and a bachelor's in human resources, which enables her to design impactful programs that empower dyslexic learners and educators. Her dedication is evident through her contribution to publications, certifications, and partnerships that raise awareness and advocate for dyslexia. Committed to DOK's vision, Phyllis seeks collaborative opportunities to ensure every dyslexic child has the support to thrive in an inclusive society. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So wonderful to have you here. I'm very honored. Okay, and last but not least, we have Cordence Oyeti is the founder of Dyslexia Tanzania, dedicated to raising awareness and promoting literacy for individuals with learning differences, a leader in dyslexia advocacy. She works tirelessly to support inclusive education and empower families dealing with learning challenges. Cordence is also a seasoned tourism professional and founder of Demi Tours and Travel Africa, with over 20 years of experience and mentors women in the industry. Through her work in education, tourism, and women's empowerment, she continues to inspire positive change and uplift communities across Tanzania. Cordence, welcome. My gosh, I'm actually reading that and I'm blown away. I'm like, oh wow. When they say you walk with giants, I feel like I'm literally online with giants. Like each and every one of you, what you've achieved so far is mind-blowing, and I'm so excited to delve into a conversation to find out how you got here and how you navigated this whole journey to get to the place that you are now. It's actually beautiful to watch. So let's dive right in. Okay, so thinking about your journey, and I'll open it up and you just indicate to me which one of you wants to go first in this. Thinking about your journey, actually, before we go into the questions, we're first going to hear your stories because you're going to answer some of the questions that I've got, and then we're going to be able to know what the questions the audience have got. So if I can start, I'll go along the screen as I see it. If I can just invite you to just briefly tell us, how did you get to here? What is your story? What got you started? And how did you reach this point in your career and in your journey? So if I can start with Oladoyin, if you don't mind, we're just very briefly, we're just going to take like 3 minutes each and then just share our stories.
Okay. I wish there was a timer on screen, but I'll try to see the sense of 3 minutes. Okay. Very quickly, when Word Africa started, our based off my personal experience going through school with undiagnosed dyslexia, and the fact that what started as an academic issue trickled down into mental health conditions as well, because there was issues with self-esteem, those issues with, drug use, sexual assault, you name it. And that's what has now transitioned into an organization whose, while we raise advocacy for dyslexia and try to provide support for the academic impacts of dyslexia, we are also very passionate about ensuring that dyslexics have the psychological and emotional support required to, navigate living life with dyslexia. What does One Word Africa do pretty much is we raise advocacy, we have mental health support groups, we do psychoeducational trainings for parents and teachers, and also have programs for adults who are living with dyslexia, ranging from study skills to employee readiness programs, so that they can thrive in the workplace, in their postgraduate degree programs, and just, thrive. That's me trying to utilize 3 minutes. I hope I did a good job of that.
You did. You've actually got like a minute and a half left. But so if there's anything else you wanted to add, you absolutely can. Okay, cool. Let's move on to Blessing. Blessing, please, could we hear your story? How did you get here?
Okay, so it's a long story, but in summary, I think it started when I started working with Coach Lola and Nikki at Cadet Academy. And when I had received my training, it covered all the 13 disabilities mentioned in the IDEA. But somehow I had a passion for children with learning difficulties. At that point, I really didn't know what it was all about. But over time, I've come to realize that it is because working with those kids reminds me of my classmates, back then in primary school, back then in secondary school. I just remember kids having the same issue, and these kids were asked to literally leave school. Teachers had recommended to teachers, and teachers had recommended to their parents that they were in school material, so they should leave, go learn a trade or something. So as I worked with all of the kids with special needs, they stood out for me because there was a connection. And for me, it was like, okay, I had friends and classmates back then when I was a child who were denied the right to proper education because they are dyslexic. And this is because the teachers didn't know better. So now that I know better, I'm going to put my heart into this and ensure that both the children, the caregivers, the teachers, everyone receive the knowledge that they need to ensure that these kids are accommodated in the society. So that is the cause I've been fighting and I've been working for from then till now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that theme is going to really run through our conversation today. Yeah. Let's move on to Lola. Lola, please share with us, how did we get here? How did you get here? How did you start?
Interesting question. I hope you can hear me. So I
Yes.
think for me, I started teaching right after BSc, during my National Youth Service Corps. I taught in an high school. And when I was done, but right from time, I'd always loved being around children. For me, I'd always loved being around children. So when I was done, I volunteered in a school. And that was the first time I met a child with special needs. As at then, we didn't have enough support for these children. There were no support. So this child would just sit by himself. He was in school, but he was not included. And I was quite worried about this child. I went on my laptop, did a Google search on how these kids like him could be educated. And I found one or two schools in Nigeria, but the kind of support that those schools provided was for people with physical impairment, like visually impaired, people who had hearing impairment. I knew that wasn't what this child needed, and that's one important thing to understand, the need of every child, so we can provide the accurate support. I went further and searched, and I found a school here in the US. So I applied and came to the US for my master's in special education. When I got done, I came back to Nigeria and I established a school for children with special needs. And after a couple of years, I felt there's more. We needed to do more. While I established a school, I trained teachers, trained parents. My team and I did a lot of advocacy. I wrote books just to create awareness and to keep the knowledge going. And after a couple of years, I decided it was time for me to go for my PhD. And now I'm in the third year of my PhD, getting ready to be a doctor like Dr. Abby in special education.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome, awesome. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm so inspired. Like, really, really awesome. Okay, can we go to Dr. Abby? Dr. Abby, let's hear your story. How did you start and
Well,
how did you get here?
well, again, long story, but to make it short, when I come from a very small town, like 400 kilometers south of the capital city of Addis Ababa. So growing up, I noticed some of my classmates, like in the primary schools, I noticed that some of them struggled with letter identifications, and we would laugh at them. And I myself wasn't that fast reader myself, but I thought that it was because of a lack of, proper reading instruction, etc., etc. But those individuals, those friends of mine, were particularly struggling with reading instruction, but I didn't know why they were behaving the way they did. And eventually, I joined Addis Ababa University, the, the the oldest university, the largest university, and I noticed some of my friends who are bright, very intelligent people, still struggling with reading. I mean, when you talk to them, they have like amazing ideas, and you know that they're genius, but they are struggling with reading and literacy issues. Like they don't want to show you their writings, their spellings, etc. And at the end of my bachelor's, I ended up being, when I completed my first degree, I was I was one of the top students. So I ended up being a teacher, junior teacher, and I came. I would have students struggling with the same kind of issues. So I did my first degree in linguistics, language studies, structural, etc. Theoretical aspects, and so at some point, I thought about these reading issues, and I started thinking, okay, I would like to specialize in communication disorders and literacy challenges. They are language-based difficulties. So I started doing my master's in applied linguistics, particularly focusing on literacy challenge. And then I got this amazing scholarship in the UK to do a PhD in communication and learning disabilities. Upon the completion of my PhD, I had this, like most African and people going to the West from developing countries. I had this dilemma to go back to my country and serve my country, or spend a lavish life in Europe. So I had that kind of challenge. So I decided eventually, okay, I'm going back to Ethiopia.
Hi. I think we had a bit
Yeah,
of a glitch.
can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes,
Uh,
can hear you. Your volume's a little bit low, Dr. Abby. So I don't know if you could just elevate your voice a little bit. Somebody's just put in the chat that they can't hear you very well. So you might have to just shout a little bit for us.
So where did you lose me? Well, so as a professor at a university, I had this experience of having students having all sorts of communication and learning challenge, and eventually I got a scholarship back to my country or stay in the UK. So eventually I decided to go back to my country and establish this organization along with like-minded individuals. So that is in short how I ended up serving individuals with learning differences individuals with communication difficulties, etc. I'm not sure whether you heard of that.
Yeah, we caught some of that. So I think your volume is still a little bit low. So we might need to think about how we can elevate it a bit, but we did. So congratulations on that journey. That's amazing. And again, very, very inspiring. Thank you. If we can move on to Phyllis. Phyllis, if we could hear your story, how did you get started and how did you get to here?
Good evening, everyone. I think when it comes to being here, I think I'm the oldest. Having started this organization way back in the year 2010, I found in this journey as a parent, and I started seeing things that like when my son was in preschool class 1 and class 2, I saw those telltales, difficulty in reading. He's not reading, his spellings were awful, and he had started challenges with reading even when he was in preschool, not liking reading. And he had very strong reversals of D. Actually, what really triggered, like shown me there was really something that I could not tell, is because he had very, very strong reversals of D, such that he could not write any word with a B. Every word that had a B was spelled like a D, with a D, like banana, daddy. This is something that I pushed him, we pushed him as a family, pushed him, and still he was not reading. Tried to get teachers to come do extra tuition. Still it wasn't working. I didn't know what, it reached a point I was like, I don't know what it is, but he's not pretending. You cannot just sit there and choose not to write the word baby the right way. So by accident, I saw a magazine written Children Who Write Doy for Boy. And that's where I got the word dyslexia. And well, way back in the year early 2000, I had the internet and I went and Googled, and that's where I got the word dyslexia. And now I started learning. I could go to the website of any organization, Dyslexia in Nigeria, for example, Dyslexia in Nigeria, and see what they have, write to them, get information for those that can respond. That contact as part of the website. And then I got a lot of information, and that's how I expanded learning. And I shared with my sister, who also had the child, who was my twin sister, who also had a child with dyslexia, and she didn't know that she had dyslexia. That the challenge that her son was having was called dyslexia, and yet she was a teacher. So we continued learning like that. Everything I got from the internet, because I had ability and access to internet, I shared with her. We learned together. And now when the children, my son especially, her son is older, so had finished primary school earlier, and we had seen the changes and a lot of impact in what we were learning, we were learning and sharing, the courses I was doing, the things that I was learning from very many organizations, the International Dyslexia Association. I did a course from with a UK organization. I did even other courses that if I tell people today about it, they're like, you did that? I'm sure you've heard about Davis method. Maybe Laura, you have heard about Davis method. And when I tell people that I've done Davis method, it's like, you've done that? That's not, I was doing anything that could show or tell or help me just understand more about dyslexia. And that's how I went on. And when the child, now my son was finishing school, and I had also realized that there was very little information, or there was zero information about dyslexia in the country. So I had started talking to parents. I had already started having children come to my house to now have extra tuition. And the same was happening with my sister. So combine that and with now the knowledge that we already had acquired, like a whole 6 years of knowledge of learning, we realized that with this gap, we needed to do something. And that's how we now registered the Dyslexia Organization Kenya as a platform to to get opportunity now to create awareness, to share with parents in a bigger scale, and teachers and everyone who cared to listen, including the media, to learn about this learning difficulty that we had just discovered that it is there and it is existing in Kenya. And so we got that opportunity. We talked to parents, we talked to everyone who could listen. And then parents now are asking whether we knew a school where we could refer their children, so that where teachers would understand their children.
I think Phyllis is frozen. So for those of you who are joining us, I mentioned earlier that the internet is really trying to stop us from being great, but we will persevere. So please do bear with us if you see that our profiles are changing and it's dipping in and out. So it just froze there. So Phyllis, are you back with us?
Yeah, I don't know where I got frozen,
No.
but I was just about to finish that.
Yep.
You can hear me now?
Please finish your point. We can hear you now. Welcome back.
Okay. I'm not sure where I got frozen, but I was saying that as we realized that there was retro information, parents started asking for whether we knew a school where we could refer their children. And there wasn't any school that we knew of in Kenya that understood children with dyslexia. And that's how we started. We realized there's a gap. And then we registered a school, and we called it Rare Gem Talent School, where we motivate, ours is to close that gap or provide that solution for children, where they can now come and find as a model school, with understanding that not all children with dyslexia can fit in one school, but at least we show that children with dyslexia can thrive in education, they can succeed from an example and a model school. And that's how Rare Gem is. So that has been my journey. Thank you.
Awesome. Absolute kudos to you. Awesome. To set up an institution is not easy. And to be able to be a groundbreaking in setting up an institution is not easy. So absolute kudos to you. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Phyllis. Let's move to Latang. Latang, would you like to share with us your journey, how you got here and how you started? We can't hear you, Latang. I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome.
All right. Sorry, network is giving us an issue. My name is Letanjiri. I am the founding director of Dyslexia and Social Support Services Botswana. Let me just mention that I really never wanted to be a founder of Dyslexia Botswana. Neither did I dream that one day I'll be doing something related to dyslexia.
That is cutting in and out, so we're not hearing you.
All right. I was saying that let me mention to you that I had no intention or desire whatsoever to do something related to education, let alone be a founder of a dyslexia organization in Botswana. But I was led to circumstances always similar to Phyllis, but in my case, it is my brother who happens to be severely dyslexic. So my brother could not read and write. He used to come back from school saying, "Hey, my teacher told me that today I was the best in Chinese." You know, the teachers used to mock him like that.
We missed most of that.
And
just me.
I used to go to school fierce, you know, trying to let the teachers not discriminate him, but it didn't help. So I am an accountant. I started accounting.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt for just a minute. The internet is really playing up, I think, across the board, but I really want us to hear Latang's story because it's so powerful. So can I just get a mic check from everyone? Can everyone hear me? Can I just let me see who is struggling? Okay, Dr. Abby, Lola, yep. Ola, okay, brilliant. Latang, you can hear me. Okay, so Latang, can we start again, please, with your story? Because we missed, I know I definitely missed most of the beginning, but I really want to hear it because I know it's a really powerful one. Is that okay?
All right, okay. Yes, I was saying that I had no intention whatsoever to be in the field of education. I had no intention to start a dyslexia organization because myself, I'm an accountant, passionate about money and maths and calculations and business. So growing up, I was an achiever. An achiever is somebody who in school be running school tax shops, doing things like that. So I was business orientated. Everything to me was just commerce. And immediately after university, our government gives us loans, so they gave me a big loan for farming. So I started commercial farming, doing mushroom production. But I had a brother who could not read and write. I was saying that when he was in primary, there are days when he will come home excited that my teacher said I'm the best in Chinese. He used to struggle a lot. And my young sister used to tell me, I'm tired of being called to class to come and manage our brother. So now, when he finished the primary level, I tried to stay with him in the city and I tried to look for a space in a school. That's when all headmasters said no. He got straight use, we are full. There is no space. So he had to stay home. He had to stay home for 3 years. And in these 3 years, I was paying private tutors. And let me tell you something, why we are social support services Botswana, it is so intentional because I was the firstborn and I had to get married with my brother. And my husband, we had to have my brother as our first child. So the name social support services comes from the fact that it's one thing to be dyslexic. It's also another thing or another problem to be dyslexic and somehow vulnerable or come from a vulnerable family. You see, in my case, I had to adopt my brother, stay for so many years without kids, just so that I can pay private tutors. But then I got fed up and I had to go to the ministry. I went to the last office in the land. When I was at the office of the president shouting, frustrated about the system, they asked me a question. Are you frustrated? I said, yes. They said, so do something about it. Do something about it. So that's when I started contacting Phyllis. I think that was around 2016 or so. I contacted her once that year and once the next year. And many people around said, there is this problem. I've got this brother, so I want to start this organization in Botswana. And people were like, what have you started? I said accounts, and nobody was ready to work with me. Because people wanted people from the field of education. So I went ahead, I looked up for some courses with the BDA, with the IDA, and the MISE and the PATOS, and then I started taking a lot of courses on dyslexia until we registered. That is how I founded Dyslexia Botswana. Dyslexia to me has become my life, and I can talk about dyslexia as an advocate and as a founder of Dyslexia Botswana, but many times I switch gears and I talk as a parent of a child who was frustrated by the system, who was almost suicidal. And at that time, I also talk as somebody who had to wait. You see, in our case, we had to wait for me to finish university, for me to have money, for me to have resources, for me to find a proper assessment in South Africa. We had to wait. So the dyslexia and social support system is for underprivileged people so that they don't have to wait the way we waited. And we are doing advocacy, we are doing awareness, and we currently have a center that have got strictly underprivileged kids who are dyslexic. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Latang. Thank you. I knew that would be powerful. Apologies, guys. I think the internet was messing up on my side and I thought it was everyone else. So I'm so glad I got mine sorted and I got to hear that powerful story. Thank you so much. Okay, can we hear from Cordance? Cordance, can we hear from you how you started, how we got here, your journey so far, please?
Good evening, everyone. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Okay, so my story is pretty simple. It took me, my son is dyslexic. And of course, as a mother, I didn't know what to expect of a child, especially now that young people, we move to towns and start our own lives with our people we love and we continue with life. So when you get a firstborn child, you certainly do not have experience to know what to expect. So I was here struggling with my son for 7 good years. And the school kept complaining. I know I never had issues with my education. I consider myself relatively learned from my village. So I wasn't sure what's happening to my son. I expected my son to inherit my intelligence. So it took me 7 years trying to teach my son. I don't understand why he's not getting things quickly. So the school kept recommending additional studies. So I enrolled him to remedial classes. Things were not changing. So they recommended I employ teachers from the same school where I was going. They actually said, take the same teachers who are teaching him in class. So every time he came out of school, he met a teacher at home waiting for him. I hired teachers. When I didn't see results, I sacked them. I kept doing this for 7 good years until I discovered that I wasn't getting the results I needed. And because I'm a tourism professional, I had clients who were very, very happy with me in 2021. And they asked me, they told me, feel free to ask us anything you want. And at that time, I was really struggling to get a solution for my son. So I told them, listen, now here is someone who wants to listen to my troubles and my son. So I explained to them what I see when I teach my son. And I also told them what the school tells me about his performance. And they didn't even wait for me to finish my story. They told me, you're dealing with dyslexia. That's when I had dyslexia the first time in 2021, November. So this was a big vocabulary, and it sounded, of course, negative. I'm like, how do I handle this? I've never heard about this. And of course, as mothers, we want the best for our children. So I drafted a quick message and said, and shared in all my networks and said, please, you people, if you've ever heard about dyslexia or you know anything about it, join my support group. I formed a WhatsApp support group. And so many people joined, and guess who joined as part of the people who know dyslexia? It was Dyslexia Kenya. So I was so lucky. Dyslexia Kenya is very vibrant. So we kept learning. They do webinars. So I kept learning, and I got a lot of support from Dyslexia Kenya, Phyllis and Nancy. And also parents who have children who have succeeded in life, yet they have dyslexia. Then I saw hope. So in my country, there's no organization that there's no initiative about dyslexia. So I'm like, how do I handle this? There was a lot of demand to do workshops. And, in my country, you cannot do any open meetings without having a permit from the government. So it wasn't possible for me to go out and do lectures and teach people and share my story about dyslexia. So I was forced to open an NGO. This happened 2023. in May, I decided to just have that platform to help me out, get a way of sharing this message with mothers like me who might not be able to meet these tourists that I was lucky to meet. Okay, so I opened Dyslexia Tanzania and started creating awareness, doing workshops, of course, with help of professionals. And as we speak, we have done a lot of workshops. We've reached more than 200 teachers. We've reached so many schools. We've reached so many parents. We've done a lot of media interviews. We go to radios. I speak about my story. And guess what? Last Sunday, we had a big marathon for dyslexia awareness. And we also did actually, on 13th of this month, we did a talent show. So we gave people who have challenges, not only dyslexia, not only learning difficulties, but people who are even deaf, people who are blind, people who are physically challenged. They came to show their talents. And this was big, like really big. So yeah, here we are. Thank you. Good to hear about different stories. And I would love one day to see each and every one of you in Tanzania.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely at the top of my bucket list of places to visit. So definitely. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could do this conversation in person one day and everybody be in one space and not doing it online? That would be awesome.
I'm happy to host you next year.
Ah, amazing. Amazing. Like we're all going to Tanzania. Excellent. Okay. Let's hear from our executive director, Roslyn. Roslyn, please do share with us how you got here, your journey so far.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Hello. Thank you to our audience and everyone, wherever you're tuning in from. It will be great to invite your families and friends to join the conversation to hear all these amazing stories. So, I am a hospitality and tourism professional as well. That's what I've known all my life. I'm a professional chef and then transitioned into hospitality management where I consult on hotel and restaurants projects. So dyslexia is not something that was in my books to ever look at it. However, I'm dyslexic and found out just 7.5 years ago to be dyslexic. However, I have been somebody through all my studies been considered as not so good, especially in my early formations, in my teens, like from young age to my teens. So because of that learning challenge, I never attended high school, and because I failed the entrance exams to attend high school. And luckily for me, somebody kind of saw what I was good at, which was I was very good in cooking, and said that you should go to a culinary school. So that landed me into the culinary school, and I managed to continue school. If that conversation hadn't happened, trust me, I would have dropped out of school because I have made an attempt to drop out of school before. But that kind of setting gave me the possibility to keep pursuing, and I pursued it 3 years after culinary school, came into the industry and started practicing as a young chef. But fast forward, after working many years, I went back to school as a mature student, and I pursued for my bachelor's degree and went on to do my master's as well, also in hospitality. So from culinary studies to hospitality, bachelor's to master's, hospitality as well, and kept working in the industry. However, it was during my master's time that I got diagnosed with dyslexia, and that was about 7.5 years ago. And that was where it hit me because my dad is an educator, and I'm like, he was also one of the people that was always like, you need to get your grades up, you need to be good in school, you need to be that. So I came back and asked him his knowledge base about dyslexia and related learning difficulties, and it shows that he didn't know. So that kind of prepared me to start going into schools and questioning educators about dyslexia. And it was the same as my dad answered, I don't know. And you could ask about 10 people or 15 people, and one person may know, but really don't know what it entails and how they will support any child if they come across, or how they could even support any child if they come across that child. And so that kind of was a bit alarming to me, because I'm looking at like 2 decades back, and what I experienced, students are still going through. And because of my work, I travel a lot on the continent, and wherever I go, I ask questions about dyslexia, especially when it comes to educators. And so when I realized it was like the same in Ghana, I was like, something needs to happen. So that's where I in 2020, thankfully or unthankfully, COVID was there, and I decided to start the Africa Dyslexia organization, and I met so many wonderful people. First of all, reached out to Blessing, and then reached out to Nancy, which is Phyllis' sister, and then reached out to Lola, and then the list kept growing, and had inquiries from all over about what work we're doing and all that. So that is what set me to be on this journey of advocacy that has taken all over my life. It's quite rewarding not as in monetary value, because if I really want money, that is not what put food on my table, but it gives me the joy that families get connected to. At least I'm not a professional, but I'm able to connect them to somebody like Blessing to help them, and they're happy, and children are getting to understand that they are not lazy and they have some potentials in them. And so that's how the Africa Dyslexia Organization was established, based on my own personal experience of going through this hardship, rejection, and almost marginalized. And so that's why we are all here today. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Rosalind, for setting pace and getting this conversation started. So let us delve into this conversation. I believe everybody has shared their story, but if you haven't, please do let me know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Lola, you're pointing.
Jiranji is yet to speak. I can see her on the screen, but she hasn't spoken.
Yes. Okay. Jianji, could you share your story with us, please? How did you get here and where did you start from?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Because the network is really, really bad. So I hope it's not going to cut me.
I'm not sure if it's my end this time again or if... No. Sorry, Rosalind, I can't... You're muted. I can't hear you.
I think she just dropped off. She's back now again.
Okay, excellent. Here we go. Please continue, Janji. Please continue, Janji.
Wow.
Justina, I would say we continue, because I think we're losing her.
Okay, no problem. No problem. All right, as soon as we get an opportunity, then we'll ask her to share her story once she's connected back on. Okay, so we're now going to dive into the conversation, and I would really like us to be able to flow in this conversation. So it's not going to be a question and answer. I'm going to put something out there, and then please feel free to share as you're led in terms of your experience. So just following on from what Rosalind has just shared in terms of some of the challenges that she's experienced, you know, she mentioned that actually this is not something that you do for any kind of monetary gain, because that's not what's going to put food on your table. I'm really keen to hear from all of you as founders and leaders of organizations. What would you say are the most pressing challenges that you've had to navigate, and how have you overcome them? So feel free to just unmute your mic and share. And if someone else is talking, just wait for them to finish.
I'd like to
Go for it.
start off. So for me, I think my experience as an educator and having to work with children with individuals with dyslexia started as far back as 2010 or thereabout. And I would say the first thing I noticed, and based on what Rosalind had said, based on even my experience noticing individuals with dyslexia, first is a dearth of knowledge from the educators themselves. A lot of educators, and I don't know if it's, I was having a conversation, and I'm trying to remember the name of the country, and I heard that I did a Google search not too long ago, but I'm still going to check if I can find it. And if anybody knows it, just put it in the comment chat. And I realized that before you can even be a teacher, in the least qualification you need to get is a master's degree. And the reason is that they've realized that education is actually the key to eradicating poverty. That's education itself. Then when you now go deep down into special education or working with children with different kind of abilities or learning disorders or learning disabilities. So the first thing, and I'm sure most of us are here would say, my teacher did not know, or they didn't know what was. For me, I'm like, oh, something's wrong with this child. When I said, and they go, shh. So one, the dearth of knowledge, like being equipped to know exactly what's going on. Another one I've also experienced would be the stigmatization and the what's the word now? I won't call it misdiagnosis, but the way it has been made to look like something evil. There's a word for that, where you think these children are possessed or they're being lazy, the labeling and the stigmatization. And the other thing for me, which I'd say was for me was, so what I did for me as an educator back then was like, I wanted to know what exactly was going on. So I'll look at what we're supposed to be teaching, where is this child missing it, more like an informal assessment. So I would say the ability to diagnose what is going on as an educator, not even medically, but this is what is happening. This is our curriculum. I'm saying this. What can I do to help this child? And then with that, it leads to, yes, we found assessment tools, but they are not culturally responsive. I remember a child whom Miss Blessing will attest to this, whom we assessed at some point, and it was basic reading skills assessment, but this child could not even pick any word, simple. Guess what? This child language was an issue because he could not speak English. So the tool we're using, he couldn't understand, but he knew. We found out that he knew what it was by the time we spoke his language to him. So some of the challenges I faced, like I said initially, was dearth of knowledge from educators. The way we've closed that gap was to keep providing training. So we do a lot of trainings, awareness. I have a YouTube channel where I just dish out information. Over 50 videos are in there where we just talk about dyslexia, how to support children in basic ways. The issue of stigmatization, awareness. I like what Dyslexia Africa is doing. I like what we all are doing. Awareness. Let's talk about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And then the awareness will help to curb or really reduce the issue of the stigmatization and wrong labeling. And of course, the assessment too, let's not forget that we're Africans. Yes, there's nothing new under the sun, nothing has been done, but there's a place for tweaking and modifying so that we do not, because most of the tools we have they're from a different context and different culture. Yes, English is English, mathematics, but how do we make it relevant to the student, to our populace, such that we don't place them at a disadvantage and then being able to support them appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so important. Just being culturally sensitive in what we do is very, very crucial, and something that maybe we need to start having more conversations about. How do we do that? Yeah, let me pass the mic on to, I think it was I'm not sure which one of you put your hand up first. So whichever one of you, Blessing, or I can't see the bottom of my screen. Yeah. Oh gosh. Sorry, everyone's names disappeared off the screen. So
Okay, let me go there.
Sorry, go for it. Yes, go for it,
Okay,
please.
because my thoughts are in line with what Coach Lola and Nikki just said. I would say one of the challenges so far currently has been the wrong mindset and the wrong information. And I'm going to tie this with the project we've currently been running, which is to go into primary schools and create awareness within kids. And one of the reasons why we started this was to ensure that kids with dyslexia are not being bullied in their classrooms. So I wanted the kids in their classroom to understand that it's okay to be different. And one of the challenges we faced recently, some of the reports that come when we go to submit letters to schools to create awareness, the schools would be like, we're not sure if parents would like, this kind of awareness. We're not sure if they want their kids to hear this. And usually we're like, I don't understand. This is awareness. Parents need to know, kids need to know. So why would a parent not want their child to even hear that word? Then how are you offering inclusion when you have these kids in your classrooms, but then you don't want someone to come in and create awareness within these children? So for others, of course, especially big schools, they want to be careful. They don't want any parent to get angry and put their child out. Then for other schools, it was because they literally didn't even understand. So lack of information. They were like, oh, we don't have kids like that in our school. Like, do you even know what dyslexia is? So we'll first of all start by letting them understand this is dyslexia. Now, I believe you have kids like this in your school. And they're like, oh, yes, we do. We didn't know this was the name. So wrong mindset and also getting the wrong information. But I would say that even if you don't have the information, I think Coach Lola and Nikki touched on this. I've seen teachers who don't know what dyslexia is, but they know something is not right. And they ask themselves, how can I help this student? They go out of their way and they get all the help they can get. Because at the end of it all, whatever name we call it boils down to the fact that this child is struggling. And as an educator, as a parent, how can I help this child? Dyslexia or not dyslexia? So you might not even know what dyslexia is. But if you have the right mindset, you're kind, you're an educator to the core, you're going to try your best with the little resources. Thank God for the internet right now and all of the information you can find online to help as many kids as possible. And one thing I know for sure is that for teachers or parents who always step out to look for help, they always end up finding the right help. And I'm sure we heard that story from our sister, was it Candice, that mentioned it? For 7 years, she kept looking for a solution and finally she found it. For now, it's even easier because coming online, I mean, if you just type dyslexia in Africa, you're going to see all of us there. If you go on Google, you're going to see all of us there. So if people are kind-hearted, the right mindset, they can get help for these kids rather than stigmatizing them. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% blessing. I think one of the biggest problems we face is attitude. And if we change the attitude or the approach we have, it will make a huge difference. Cordence is back, so we'd love to hear from Cordence, and then we'll go to Phyllis.
Okay, so I like the way we've come together as initiatives in the whole of Africa. Hats off, Roslyn. And this is a brilliant idea. I know we are all stronger together. I look forward to a time our voices will be too loud to be ignored. In my country, special education needs teachers, they do not know about dyslexia. Then how will the children survive who happen to be 10 to 20%? A teacher spoke so badly about my son before me. I had to cry at night. I couldn't cry before my son because I don't want him to see my tears and it's about him. He said my son is just escorting other children to school. And this is a Cambridge, it's an international school. And I'm paying school fees, a lot of money, just like the rest of the children who are being escorted by my son to school. And he was bold enough to say this before the head of school, the head of academy, before my before another subject teacher and before my own eyes that my son cannot learn. He's escorting other children to school. So that's how crude he was. And what hurt me most is that the head of school didn't say anything. She did not see anything wrong about the comments of this teacher, who happens to be a class teacher. And at that point, my son refused to go to school. He didn't want to study anymore. And he was only 9. Where do I put a child of 9 years who is not able to get literacy, a basic right for any human being? And by the way, it's just our systems in Africa. I met some special education needs teacher from Finland, and he said, even a mad person can study. There's nobody who cannot study. Every human being, it doesn't matter how extreme your autism is, doesn't matter how extreme your ADHD is, it's about the teacher. So another biggest challenge, I want a policy change. I don't know how we can work together to make sure at least teachers know about dyslexia. You can't believe it. When I meet teachers who don't know it, then who will help parents who are innocent like me 7 years ago? So another thing that I really, really think is important is the attitude, like someone said. I know parents who have children with dyslexia, they do not want to accept, they deny. And the child continues suffering because as a parent, if you can't accept and support your son, who will? The teachers already will not support him because you're the first advocate. So, and people think it's witchcraft. I don't know if it's only here. They think it's witchcraft. They think someone has looked at their sons with the wrong eyes. Because if my son is seeing, others think their children are blind, it's a side problem. There's a lot of awareness that we need all to put across. And the stigma, oh my goodness, I think that's why parents are not able to accept that their children have dyslexia, because of the stigma. And you know what? As a parent of a dyslexic son, when you give birth to a child, you believe your child is the most beautiful thing on earth. You believe your child wants the best, and you believe your child will be a great person. Now wait, you start hearing big vocabularies like dyslexia. That's when your world starts breaking apart. So yeah, the challenge is stigma. It's about awareness. Let's talk about these things. Let's make forums like this. Let's travel to each and everyone's country and make a fuss out of this until the world stops ignoring us.
100%, 100%, and we respond to that call to action. We've come so far, but yet there is still so far to go. Definitely. So, Phyllis, you wanted to share about some of the challenges that you had to overcome.
Yes, and thank you. I have heard what Blessing has said, and it is we started this training, as I explained, that actually when we started the registered dyslexia organization, the intention was never to start a school, because we realized the gap was in the teacher understanding and lacking awareness. And I thought that if at least one school, every school can have at least 1 or 2 teachers who understands about dyslexia. We will not have to wait until maybe Rosalind goes and drops out of school to be discovered somewhere by default, by accident. If it was possible for every school to have at least one teacher who can be able to identify and support, just even being able to identify. So that is why when we started the organization, but challenge was, as Blessing has said, when we went to schools to create awareness, or sought teachers, the directors of school permission that we talk to their teachers, even for free. The answer was, we do not have such children in our school. Then you wonder, my son didn't go to any special, would not even have needed to go to any special school, because he had nothing special to make him go to, or any special need to make him to go to a special school. And then he's in a regular school, and another director is telling me, we do not have such children in our school. Even today, as we speak, we are still having the struggle to get access to teachers, especially in the public schools, to talk to them and let them understand basic awareness on how to identify, not even much, because the way I felt off my shoulders when I learned that my child, he was not stupid, was not lazy, was not all the labels that he is being given, but has only dyslexia. Just that alone was enough to just feel the weight out of my shoulders. And I imagine the same happening to other teachers. And then parents looking for solution after you have known your child has dyslexia, then you seek for solution. But the challenge we have even today in our country, accessing teachers even in the public schools, the regular school, the private schools, is so hard that sometimes you are able, like a criminal, to get the teachers to create awareness. And as Countess has said, there's need for policy change, and there's need for that back and forth shouting, hearing, until we are heard. And I can tell you that from the way when we started now this conversation, even with the Ministry of Education and other people, we are seeing changes. We are seeing accommodations given to children, even in the examination. During examination, we started with extra time. The children, the examination, the children were being given or are given extra time. And I can tell you right now, because of now our conversation pushing and pushing, they were getting readers and scribers for their exam. It is a very big step that you only need to, every single day, make a push, a step at a time. Do not get tired. In Africa, I think even to be seen with a gadget like this in an exam room, it is considered cheating. But you continue moving on, and the more the ministry and other Ministry of Education and other people in the Ministry of Education seeing what Ghana is doing, Kenya would not want to be left behind. And if Nigeria are doing it, why can't we do it? So you find now we continue moving. Instead of looking at the West or the US, if we come together, achievement or the steps that probably will happen in Ghana, our Minister of Education sees such a thing is happening in Ghana, and then or Nigeria or Tanzania or Malawi, they do not want to be left behind if it is a good thing. So working together, working as a team and shouting in our own space within your country, because our Minister of Education have different areas, we have different methods of teaching, but at the end of the day, we are helping the African child. So there is challenges, you are going to get challenges even being accepted by the Minister of Education, by the government, but don't give up. Right now, it is good. We have a good ground, we have a good foundation, we have the space, not like when we started before, when there was no internet or the accessibility was just limited. Whatever is happening, whatever Roselyne, I've received calls from people telling me, I know Roselyne, I've attended her training, I know a Blessing, I've attended her training, and they're in Kenya. And that is a very good thing to happen, that they actually did not hear from me. They are coming to me telling me they have been referred to us from all the way from Nigeria, meaning something is happening. Thank you.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Hi, was that you, Ola?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Very quick. It's very interesting how whenever I'm in a program, we start with calling Oladoyin and then we switch to Ola. But yeah, I get that we have to do that. Very quickly, I'm open to also encourage us in Nigeria. A lot of us, when we started our work, tried to engage the government. And when the government wasn't doing anything about it, we have so far learned to be self-sufficient and create structures around our program that ensures that our work and advocacy continues with or without their support. But I would like to say that this is also a moment to actually reinitiate conversations with the government. On October 5th, I was at the Eagle Square with the National Union of Teachers and the Minister of Education, who has recently been changed, however. But when they were all talking about plans that they had for education in the coming years, I had things like special needs. I had a lot of things, but even when I had special needs, I was very curious and it piques my interest. I was open to hear something about dyslexia or autism or, something in the neurodiversity sector. But when I heard special needs, I'm like, okay, even in this, we're not included as well. So it just goes to say that as advocates, we need to re-engage the government. I have called myself to others as well and realized that yes, I got tired of knocking on their door, and I've created so much structure around ensuring that I'm doing grassroots. But even with grassroots, sometimes when we train teachers will tell you how they're very open to teaching the kids and all of those things. But what happens with external examination? So policy still needs to be changed. So whether we like it or not, we still need to engage our government. So continue that dialogue so that we can push policy is one of the things that is very important. It's one of the challenges that we face in Nigeria. And one of the very beautiful things that I always use, even in the dialogue that I use right now, is I always show them an example of what British Council and Ghana is doing through African Dyslexia Organization. I show them some of these things just so that they can see. And so far, it looks as though, they're coming to terms, but it would help if more of us are engaging them and pushing and knocking on their tables. So I'm not that doing that is always in their office, looking for their trouble. That's one. Another thing is also engaging creating an ecosystem of support across every level. And breaking down the ecosystem into things that we would have even previously overlooked, in terms of like what Blessing says about talking to kids about dyslexia. It is very important that when we consider stakeholders, we're not just thinking the big sector, we're not just thinking parents, teachers, we're thinking stakeholders to the barest minimum so that we are able to create an ecosystem of support across every level. If a classmate is taught about dyslexia today, right now they would have empathy. And even when they grow into adults, when they're also creating structures, they would have the mindset of inclusion. So it is important for us that when we are creating our programs, we need to pay attention to including more people into the ecosystem. So that, and another thing is religious organizations as well. We find that a lot of parents, when they have faced with conditions like this, they are binding and casting. How about we also go to the churches? How about we go to the mosque and also educate them so that when next the parent come and tell you to bind and cast my child, you are informed that this is not a binding and casting matter. Maybe you should call Lola Nike, maybe, something, this is not time for anointing oil. Maybe call Rosaline, maybe call Blessing. Anointing oil can come later, things like that. It's just very important that we have, we open our mindset again to this. Finally is the fact that we have come a long way. So I would really like to acknowledge a lot of people who have made this possible, because I remember how it used to be a very lonely road. So to be here seeing multiple faces is mean that has also translated in my work. Now in the work that I do, if I hit a roadblock, I know the number of people I can call and who I can lean on, and that just helps to increase, the quality of work, that we do on, in the whole landscape of neurodiversity. So I would just like to encourage us. We've done so much. Let's not lose hope. This alone is testament of how much work we've been able to do. And yes, our adults with dyslexia is another thing that I'm also hoping that we can have more people focus on adults who have dyslexia. And most of the time with adults who have lived in experience with dyslexia, there's always very significant psychological impact. So expanding some of our programs to have the psychology factor. So when we train a parent, let's include the psychological element so that they are better suited to support their child, not just in the academic aspect, but in the emotional aspect of things. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Oladoyin. Some absolute gems there. And one of the things that I really wanted to draw out is the idea of cross-pollination and the sharing that all of you have been doing for all of these years. And it's very well known that sometimes you can be saying a message and your people will really ignore you, but you bring someone from outside in to share exactly the same message and suddenly they'll be like, they've heard it for the first time. And so actually maybe some of the ways is the cross-pollination of you know, going into each other's countries and speaking the same message that you have been sharing, but hearing another voice might be what opens that particular door in terms of knocking on, especially with politicians. I love that. I also want to extend what Oladoyin is saying in terms of seeing that we've come a long way in the journey. And I wonder if any of you can share any moments that you've had when you realize, oh, wow, we've actually made a change. Like, I can see impact. Like this, we did this and we saw the impact. Can any of you share on your journey any moment that you had when you realized that actually impact is happening and change is happening? Oops. Go ahead, Blessing, and then Rosalind.
Okay, I wanted Rosalind to go because she has not spoken. I think I'll go after her.
Ah, okay. Go Rosalind and then Blessing.
I was saying she should even go. Okay, so just I will say a little bit about what in the other question, and then come a bit into when we saw some impact. I feel another challenge that for us we kind of kept encountering is normally when you go and create awareness, and you know, it was one of the things that also hits me was when I started researching about dyslexia. I saw amazing people all over the world who are dyslexics. Their names are like projected. These people are doing amazing work. And I was like, this is so cool. Then I kept looking into the list and I'm like, where are the people who look like me? And I kind of saw some names who definitely look like me. But then I'm asked, are they from my continent? And I wasn't seeing. And that is a challenge because there has been a moment when a parent asked me, is this dyslexia thing you're talking about only for white people or only for the developed world? And it hurts me because she was asking in connection to, I want to set an example, or I want to reference to an example of someone who is just like my child, who looks just like my child. And then she couldn't find. And so it was a big challenge. And I felt that our stories are not there because of one thing. One, we say that a child who cannot do well in school automatically should drop out of school. That child is lazy. That child can never amount to anything. So, one, our dyslexics or our neurodivergent people are not growing to realize their potentials so that they can become, or I'm not saying everybody is going to be a superstar, but at least everybody can be somebody. The other thing also is that either they went through the experience, because obviously we know 1 in 5 is dyslexic, but they went through the experience, but or they are muted and they are muted. They don't feel the comfortability to come out and share because of the stigmatization attached to it. And that is why a parent will even come to you, you advise they go for the assessment, it confirms their child is dyslexic, and now they want to stop talking to you. They don't even want to associate because they don't want somebody to stigmatize it. So this is a huge challenge in the work that we do. And how can we come together and start sharing and amplifying the stories of our dyslexics, the stories of our neurodivergence? How can we come together and be amplifying them? So that is why, like ADO, we launched a program, was it on Friday, of searching for our dyslexics individuals around Africa, where already I had 3 people already, and yesterday when we were on the program as well, where people were like, is there a way we could open it up, even not just dyslexic people, but the entire neurodivergence people, so that if we have the names, those who are comfortable sharing their story, we can start projecting those names, and that is how we will set example in our African space. So that is one thing. And impact-wise, for me, my first call to action was writing an article, what every parent should know about dyslexia, even before I started Africa Dyslexia Organization. And it got a lot of response. People were asking, what are you talking about? You're referring to my child, you're referring to me, and all that. And using that basics to start the Africa Dyslexia Organization and also engaging the Ministry of Education in my country. First, if you look, and I would challenge everybody here, take your inclusive education policy and read through it. It is a beautiful policy, but it is nothing touching on learning difficulty or learning differences. It is there for physical disabilities. And this is where for us, we pushed from our angle with the Ministry of Education, and immediately, even as a baby organization, same in 2020, added us to the technical working team that reviewed the inclusive education policy to include the aspect on learning differences. And I'm using through the pipeline of my ministry as well to connect to other ministries of education. So let's say Sierra Leone, Liberia, and other ministries of education, where we want to engage with policymakers to look into because every country want to achieve inclusivity by 2020, by 2030. And so therefore, this is so important to them. But I feel like ADO is just one organization. How do we all come together as a united force and then approach it from, say, the aspect of African Union, so that we can then get access to these ministries of education and make our voice heard? Because I feel like when we go in all these united forces, they will listen to us more than they will listen to anybody else. I remember Felix sharing with me, they've been operating for like 10 years or plus. However, they have not even engaged with their Minister of Education before, because the door is like shut on them. But I tell you, I can go to Kenya and I can get access to the Minister of Education in Kenya, like in a swift way, because like you said, sometimes Africans, we don't cherish our own. But then when somebody jump from Togo to Ghana, they will open the door. When somebody from Nigeria to Ghana, they will open the door. So let's come together as a united force and keep driving the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Roslyn. Blessing, would you like to share?
Okay, yes, thank you. So, to answer the question you had earlier asked, and thank you so much, Rosaline, for that submission. I mean, just looking at the stories so far, I'm even wondering which to share. But I think one that I will share of the impact we've made so far is through a dyslexia intensive course that I run with Coach Lola and Nikki. And just today, somebody reached me and they were like, "Oh, I'm Mrs. This. I went through your training. And today I was just thinking about people who have helped my journey in working with neurodiverse kids. And I remembered you and I said, I should thank you. You might not remember me." And I told her that I remember you. I know all the students at Dyslexia Intensive course. And I'm happy you're doing such an amazing work. Because how all of this started was when I started Dyslexia Help Africa, I would receive calls from different states, from different countries. "Oh, we have a child with this, we need your help." And I realized that I can't be everywhere. I said, okay, what we're going to do is that we're going to multiply ourselves as many educators that want this information. We're going to pour it into them so that they can go out there and create a change. And it's so exciting to see that the different educators and even parents, because parents take this course as well. You know, they go out there advocating for these kids. They go out there teaching the right way. And I just see it expanding. And I would always tell them, the sky is very big for every one of us to soar. So while you're in your state, whatever programs you want to have, dyslexia events, we are here to support you. Just let us know. So having more teachers go out there, create awareness, know more about dyslexia, and also help their students with dyslexia has been so exciting. Of course, compared to the numbers of teachers who don't know what dyslexia is, that might be small, but we've started somewhere. And then again, I would say the results we see when children with dyslexia receive the right help. Recently, one of the things I've been advocating for is having a curriculum, a literacy curriculum that works for both neurotypical kids and neurodiverse kids. Because I would always say this strategy, the structured literacy strategies and multisensory strategies that we're using work for kids with dyslexia and work for other kids as well. So why not bring in this curriculum and merge it with your curriculum in such a way that these kids receive the help that they need? Because we've seen, let's say, miracles. A child will come who has been struggling for years, but in just 1 month, 2 months of receiving the right intervention, you just see this child excelling. One of the kids who has been with us about 3 years, who has finally left, I recently saw the mom posting about him on Instagram. And he was literally the best kid in his class. That brought tears to my eyes because when this child came, didn't know letter names, didn't know sounds, the school had given up, the mom was just crying, and that boy has risen to be the best child in his class. Imagine if the mom never got the help that this child needed. So I can think of 1,001 stories, of the impact that has been made. It is a small number, but it is progress in the right direction. And I believe that together we can even achieve much more in the years to come. Thank you, Justina.
Awesome, awesome. Before we move on to our next question, is there anyone else that wants to share about a moment, impact moment? Yes, Oladoyin and then Lola.
Amazing work. Every time I hear, what
Please
every
go
other
ahead,
person is
Oladoyin.
doing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Every time I hear everything every other person is doing, it really does, it spurs me and inspires me so much. But for us, also within, the work that we do, some of the very immediate impact that has happened in recent time that has, just reaffirmed that we're doing things in the right direction was one for me was I was talking to a parent who prior to when we first started our relationship, she was telling me how she would flog her daughter and all of those things and everything. And then fast forward to now, she's telling me how there's a teacher in her daughter's school that was comparing her daughter, and she went there to educate the teacher and tell the teacher that, you don't talk to my daughter like this is how you do it and all of those things. And she was even able to get us to do like a teacher training for the school. And it turned out that the proprietor of that school also has a son who had also dropped out of school. And, that just, opened everybody's eye to what they were dealing with. Another for me was today, at 4 p.m. today, I had a consultation session as well with a boy where, today was his third session. So we've had like 3 different sessions. Today was the third session. The first time that his family reached out, they were talking about how it's very closed up and it's not expressive and all of those many things. So first session was a bit stiff. Second session was a bit stiff. And then today was the third session. And it was literally sharing emojis, talking about his self-esteem and just being confident in himself. And that in itself, like that, all of the things like that helps us to reaffirm, like, we're seeing the progress and it's very nice to see. Pretty much like that. When we see people change their narrative, when we see people change from a belief of, it's negative to them now being hopeful and, being even self-advocates by themselves, that parent going to school to educate the entire school on dyslexia after coming from beating your child and insulting your child, that is progress.
Excellent. Over to you, Lola.
Wow, amazing job, everyone. Well done. Kudos to us. Thank you, Justina. Thank you, Oladoyin. Blessing everyone. Amazing. I'm so excited about what we're doing. And in my little way, I feel like a little grandma who's watching her kids excel. Really. really. And my place, they would say something like, no matter how old you think you are, you can't have as many rags as an adult. And what an adult will see sitting down, you as a young child will not see it standing up. You know, I'm not saying I'm the oldest here, but from what I've seen. But as we spoke, I see that we've done quite a lot. I was talking to someone about my country, Nigeria, and I'm like, they don't listen. And I was sharing some experiences. And what I'm talking about right now is about policies, how we can effect changes, how we can move from our silos to effecting bigger, in making bigger impact with policies. Once the policy aspect is taken care of, we'll see that things will become much easier because what we're fighting for, we already have it, and then we'll see what's the next thing. And I see that in Kenya, in Malawi, in Nigeria, in Ghana, we're doing amazing job. We're doing so well. And I was thinking, what do we now need to make them listen? What do we need? And like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm here in the US, and what are we doing based on the my level of my educational what I'm doing right now with my PhD? And I realized that all that we're doing now is, looking at research, seeing what works, having data, I'm showing. So, for example, Ghana has done so well, Malawi has done so well, Kenya has done so well. The reason why I feel that we're not seeing, we're doing well, fine in our silos, but if we put the numbers together, so will I be right to say that now we have the numbers? We have the numbers. If I'm right, but I stand to be corrected. Now we have the numbers. What else do we need? We need data. We need data. What else do we need? We need funding. And I don't believe that, yeah, funding is an issue, but if there's a will, there's a way. That's my belief. In our little way, for let's get sample with all the amazing things that's happening in Kenya, with the amazing things happening in Dyslexia Help Africa, with One Word Africa, with Rosalind's organization, all of that. And we say, look, let's get 10 samples of, we have different issues. When we are saying teachers, issue of based on our challenges. But the only ways we can make those challenges a reality, overcome those challenges, bringing out data to show this is what was and this is what is. We have the data. Data does not lie, it's scientific. We have teachers so we can decide that we have a project where we want to talk about teachers first and and show why it's important for effective learning strategies for individuals with dyslexia. We have teachers who are aware of dyslexia, and we have teachers who are not aware. And then we'll move to the next level of, okay, we're going to equip this number of, we have samples, we equip this number of teachers, and we'll have our other experimental group, a group that we're not equipping, and we want to see the difference. And then without push that to the children again, we have a set of children who are being supported with accommodation, with different high-level practices and evidence-based practices. And then we have those that have not been. And then we have our data together. It also, you can make it like 5 samples of African schools. It can be a private school. We do all of that, have all our data together. By the time we put those together, yes, funding will be an issue, but it's just a sample. We can decide to task ourselves. And I believe that people are here who want changes. There are a lot of parents who can afford this, but they don't know what to do. We communicate our plan to them, our agenda to them. Look, we've tried this in Kenya. We tried this sample. We tried this sample in Ghana. We tried this based on the hierarchy of needs to be able to meet the needs of individuals with dyslexia, and then we bring that document. We have everything done together, and we now speak as one. We are taking this document that has been tried in Kenya. We are going to the Kenya government, all of us together, and say, look, it's going to make a difference. They would listen. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're doing so well. There's room for more. There'll be challenges, but let's start thinking strategically in the ways that they'll actually listen to us, and we can effect those changes in policy with our policymakers. And the truth is that we have different. Thankfully, Dr. Abe is in what country now? Help me here. I know.
Ethiopia.
I think we have a good number. And we have, even if we have to outsource professionals, let's get this and let's show them that this is not, we are not here. It's not, we have testimonies, we have facts, and we are using scientific method to show that this is real and it doesn't lie.
Beautiful. Justine, are you there? Okay. Litang, do you want to share anything from your side?
All right. Let me talk about the challenges. As an NGO, we exist because something that was supposed to be done was not done, or even if it's done, it's not done right. Therefore, we have a lot of challenges because we are dealing with a system that has been there for ages. And sometimes we come across as if we expose the system. But to me, those are not challenges, by the way. There's only one challenge we have, which is money. The rest, I'm fine with them. We have a number of volunteers who come to the center daily to help vulnerable kids. And those volunteers need to be paid. This means that we have to have an active department of fundraising that is always working so that there's continuity. And what happens in our center is that we are a remediation center. We remediate learners and then they have to go back to the mainstream. They need to be fed, they need books, and they need qualified teachers. Well, there are no qualified teachers. They need passionate teachers. Therefore, one of our biggest challenge that I think is worth talking about is the finance. I am hoping that the African Alliance, we together, we can influence the governments or even the AU to get subventions. We can together get financial support because I went to prisons around, boys' prisons around my country, and I did a research. I said, I want to see anybody who is here and they were getting A at school. Guess what? Most of the boys that are in prisons are those that could not read, write, and spell. There's no one who got a merit who is in boys' prison. Not even a single person. Just to prove a point. I did that just to prove a point. That when you are vulnerable, you become prone and even more vulnerable to being influenced to join social ills like theft and other things like that. So what we need, my biggest need now, is money. Just the money, so that we can have lots of volunteers who will offer free intervention. And I think our greatest challenge after finance would be varying opinions about what dyslexia is currently in Botswana. Because, us as people who we have 65 dyslexics that we meet daily. Therefore, I know the severity and the varieties of dyslexia. So there are those that are moderate and there are those that are very severe. And there is no one case of dyslexia that is the same. Therefore, I think currently our biggest challenge is the definition of dyslexia itself. Because we have got dyslexia now, dyslexia, where teachers are not teaching and they say, go for assessment. I call it dyslexia. We have dyslexia, and then we have reading problems, and then we have spelling problems. Those are not dyslexia. Dyslexia is more than that. When a child doesn't know how to spell, have got severe spelling problems, you use spelling interventions before you can diagnose. Therefore, our challenge right now is when we do awareness, there's a lot of misdiagnosis and dyslexia. That is what that is the biggest challenge. And I think what we need as dyslexia Botswana is a money. Money for me to call Lola to come and help capacitate teachers properly and fully.
I'll come for free. I'll come for free. Don't worry, I'll soon be done. I'll come for free. I'm almost there.
Please, yes, call me up.
Africa is gonna be great. Don't worry, we are all like keeping up, so you don't need money from me.
Yes, you see, that is only we just need resources so that we can do. I mean, culturally appropriate assessment tools. So all of these things, they lead to one thing. We need resources, financial resources, for us to engage aspects that will do culturally appropriate assessment tools, experts that will demystify dyslexia, aspects that will help us have a large pool of volunteers that will do intervention. To me, that is all that matters. The other problems that are there are really minor. Our greatest need is finances, and I'm just hoping, my hope is now on the African Dyslexia Alliance. This is where my hope is at, that together we can be united and we can fundraise properly, so that we don't become dependent on our government. Let me tell you something. If you are dependent on a government that you are trying to help, you are going to compromise. If you are dependent on a broken system that you are trying to fix, you are going to compromise. Therefore, we have been trying to have multiple revenue streams such that now nobody can help silence us or dim our light. So I'm just hoping that all of us that are here, we can remain true to the cause. We can remain true to the cause and question these English assessment tools and other things that we use to misdiagnose our African learners. That's all.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. We absolutely need to make it happen. We are stronger together than we are on our own. So we absolutely need to. Thank you so much, Latang. And that speaks to, we have a few questions that have been put through, and there is a running theme through them in how can we make, are there diagnostic tools that are culturally appropriate, and how can we make the interventions and the resources that we have culturally responsive? Because if you're working in a small school or a village in Burundi, you know, what tools do you have, what resources do you have? Can you speak to some of the educators and the parents who are not in the cities, they're not in the places that can access some of these European orientated, American orientated resources? How can they go about offering the interventions and support to the children they're working with when they don't have access to these things that we may take for granted because we do have access to them? Lola, I saw your hand up. Do you want to take that one?
I don't mind. Rosalie, were you gonna? I saw your hands up before mine.
No, it's okay. It was totally tanked. The way her hope is on Dyslexia Alliance Africa.
Yeah, I love that. I was laughing when I saw it too. Look, I would say again, there's nothing new under the sun. You know, I'm a teacher, so when it comes to working with children, learning, you know, strategies, you know, frameworks, it get me excited. I'm looking at, like I said, with the little idea I said earlier on, looking at what is going on, and thankfully I've been privileged to see what's done in developed country and what is happening in Africa, and I'm like, there's really nothing new. What have they done, and what do we need to do? Again, as an educator, as a teacher, do I have the skill set to be able to teach and ensure that learning takes place? Letang said something about this teaching, and I'm like, that's true, because if you look at it critically, you know, there are several levels of I mean, whether we like it or not, we can say we have the mild, the moderate. We have different kinds of different categories. You could categorize it, and that beyond the academic aspect, the psychological aspect also. Well, let's take for example a child who is even just let's say nursery school. I don't want to use kindergarten and all that. Nursery school, and you're seeing signs as a teacher. If you're able to catch it early by knowing the basics, people will jokingly say in my country, what business does a 2-year-old have counting 1 to 500? Or what business does a 2-year-old have misplaced priority based on our curriculum? What are the skills that child needs? Attending skills, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, basic things that they need to thrive. So let's go back to so in answering that question, I don't want to go into I'll take a whole time to explain. It's first of all, what do we have? What does our curriculum say about literacy? What does it say? What should our kids be doing at certain ages? Now, whenever we talk about assessment, we make it look like a big deal. Assessment simply means, what am I doing to ensure that my children learn? What am I doing when I conduct an assessment? What am I doing wrong and what can I do right? I want to know what I'm doing wrong, and I want to know where my child, the student, is struggling. Now, I appreciate, I've used several tools, and I always say this. It's as easy as using teacher-made tools. It doesn't have to be standardized. It doesn't have to be. What do you plan? What's your objective? If your objective is a child to learn 2-letter words, right, and that child is struggling, let's not even take it too far. Based on what you've planned to do with your literacy curriculum, if it's not right, we're going to talk about that, and then we've sorted it out. Now that we've sorted it out, what do I need as an educator? And that's why initially I said, the level of education for some schools, like I said, in Finland, there's a reason why it's important for you to have that skill set to be an educator for real. Because sometimes this issue of this teacher that we're talking about is because some teachers don't even know how to teach. I don't have a job, and now, with all humility, maybe because teaching is my passion, I feel offended when we talk about teachers and say we're not doing our job and all that. But unfortunately, the profession has been infiltrated such a way that we don't have people that have the basic skill set to teach. The other day, I was watching Facebook. I was on Facebook, and I saw some students in China, and they were teaching them life skills, young kids, life skills, how to do several things. And they showed another teacher dancing, making fun of her. And I said, you can't. That's the best she knows. But when you, as a teacher, you know this, you know the things you need to do to teach, the skills, the art of teaching. Then you cut that issue of not catching it young by, if I may say, 50%. Now, when we do that, it's simply saying, I'm not saying disregard those tools, but what is that thing you have in your hands? And there's a simple thing that was going through my mind. We call it the multi-tier system of MTSS, where you have, it's like a funnel. I don't know if you're, it's like a funnel where you say, okay, the lower part of this funnel, and we have the middle part of the funnel and the upper part of the funnel. If you do something as basic as that, as in our preschools and even early primary schools, you'll find out that you are doing a great job for these kids, and we are cutting down the percentage of individuals we categorize to be dyslexic. In the sense that, okay, I have these kids in my class, we have 20 of them. What the funnel says is that at the upper part of the funnel, I'm made to teach using evidence-based, using all that I know. And guess what? Thank God for technology. If you type evidence-based practice, if you type high leverage practice, it will tell you, teach this before this. Give the child time. It tell you basic things you need to do as a teacher. You don't need anybody to explain that to you. You will see different things online. That's okay. If you want to teach 2-letter word, teach A first, teach a sound first, turn it up and all that. When you do that, and that's what I'm meant to do as a teacher, basically, in my first level of the higher part of the hierarchy of the triangle. That's an assessment. In America, they used to use that before they changed to different tools. That's the basic assessment they do. Now, out of those 20 students in my school, my class, I've been able to use that tool, that strategy, and then I still have 5 struggling. Now, what do I do with the remaining 5 that are moving them down to the middle of my funnel? I want to try one-on-one. I want to try extra classes. I want to try multi-strength. I want to try this. And then I try that again, giving that one-on-one intervention, just doing my best. Mommy, can you bring this child earlier to school? Can we have our weekend classes? Can we do this? Can we get this to done? Can I show you what to do with this child? And then we do that again, and we are still not seeing improvement. Then we go down to the funnel, the lower part, where we have maybe 2 or 3 of them. We now say we need specialists. We need to call in Blessing. We need to call in Oladoyin. We need to call in professionals. We need to call them in to show us specifically what we need to do, as opposed to looking for those tools that are not culturally relevant. Because when we're doing what we're doing with that funnel, the MTSS funnel, we are using what we know to do, that is ours, to help our students. Because sometimes when we bring in those that are not culturally responsible or relevant, we even cause more disservice to these children. I've said a lot. I'm sorry I sound this way, but I own my peace.
Lola, never apologize for passion.
Exactly. I was
Yes.
just gonna reaffirm Miss Lola about teacher made tools, because that's literally how she's trained even myself. And because I trained at Cadet as well for a couple of months, and that has informed some of the things that we do. So especially for the fact that sometimes we hear parents say that assessment is inaccessible because they cannot afford it, and sometimes what you really need to do is tackle the issue at hand. If it's reading issue, if it's issue with focus, creating tools from what you can find around you. And I would give credit to Miss Ola for actually putting that consciousness in me. At the time, it was a struggle. Miss Ola, please, can we just buy imported materials? Why do we have to cut cardboard and things like that? But fast forward and cutting cardboards, and I'm encouraging other people to cut cardboards and use table covers and do everything that they can use around them. So at the end of the day, culturally relevant tools are things that you as a teacher, where you are, you can create with what you have in that time, using the student that you're trying to help as a point of reference.
Absolutely, Oladoyin. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think we have time for just one more question, and then we're going to take closing remarks because time has flown. So the question is, I'm from Nigeria, and I recently learned through Dyslexia Africa that my friend and cousin are both dyslexic. I'd like advice on how best to support them in ways that are effective and considerate. So who would like to take that question? If 2 of you wouldn't mind responding to that, just because of time, who would like to take that? Who's going to take it?
I think,
yeah. Oh, Lola and Oladoyin, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, I was going to type something, and I'm going to I don't know which quote at the back end. This is what I've learned even as I'm working on my PhD. If you type out high leverage practices on Google Scholar, right? And if you put in bracket research to practice, high leverage practices, put literacy in it, articles will come out that teachers have found, researchers have broken it down how to carry out these things, even for mathematics, it's out there. All you have to do is now bring into, like I said, what do we want to do? If your student, if your cousin or whoever is in grade 2 and is having challenges reading or writing, what does the curriculum say about what grade 2 should be doing? Or if you feel the child is below grade level, then go back to grade 1, because you have to start from the very beginning, the foundation. Check what grade 1 should be doing, whatever grade it is, or the level the child you find that individual in. Then take that resource that you found on how to tell you this is what you should do, even give you examples. These are things that researchers have done in developed countries, but the strategy is the same. It's like saying, teach this before teach A before B, blend A and B together. So you've done a lot of training, you've done multisensory, you've done science of reading, and I'm sure an amazing job has been done with Dyslexia Africa, because I know of that training. I'm very much involved. I know what is going on there. Now, sometimes, again, our problem is application. So now that you've learned that, get all your resources together, your working document will be what is that child meant to be doing, or what level is that child in? All that you've learned in Dyslexia Help Africa with those high leverage practices or evidence-based practices, and make sure you find those articles that says research to practice. Like, we're not telling you alpha or correlation or what the result says. This is A to Z of how to do it. Then juxtapose it with what you have. I mean, we're all critical thinkers. We understand basic things. If I cannot this, what should I do? Then you can write up a plan for that individual and just be consistent. One of the high level practices is repetition. Then you do repetition, right? I think I would keep quiet for now.
Okay, thank you. And then briefly, if we could take Olodoyin, and then we're going to start wrapping up the conversation.
Justina, you're setting me up for putting me after an academia to speak, because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say after Coach Lola. But I think really, she's really summarized everything. I would again, I always like to also advocate for the emotional support. So in whatever strategy you're creating, all the time you invest in creating academic structures, also create some, attempts to help the person have an understanding of their image and self with their knowledge of their dyslexia, and see how things go from there. And then I think another thing that I also oftentimes say to people, which also helps, because I work more as well with adults who are living with dyslexia, and sometimes they don't get the immediate benefit of things like structured literacy or anything like that. But multisensory approach helps across every age group. But one of the concepts that I use all the time is the fact that when you're trying to learn a topic or the concept of something, one of the things that help you is if you fill your head with it's like when you're trying to learn words, you fill your head with vocabulary, like you fill your vocabulary bag. So you're trying to learn the concept of something. It helps when you fill your head with knowledge of that concept. So this comes to subject matters now. When we're doing things like chemistry, it helps when you're exploring, things around that topic, watching videos around it, so that when you're now being taught in text or the abstract of it, there's something from your brain to retract knowledge from and connect to it and make proper sense of it. So this helps a lot for more independent learners who now surpass things like structured literacy. Some of them have been able to find ways to read, but if you actually investigate their reading, some of them, they don't know how. Like for someone like me, I wasn't taught structured literacy. I started learning structured literacy while teaching. So somehow I was able to find a way to learn to read, but I didn't learn the proper way, right? I was just able to escape or find my way around it. So that's the situation for a lot of adults who live with this condition, but they're trying to navigate, school, postgraduate degree programs, or, life in general. So filling your head with concept of that topic by breaking out the concept using resources like videos, audios, visuals, all that. It now makes it easier when you're learning it or you're being taught about it. There's something for your brain to connect to because you're a visual learner.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, all of those resources are going to be amazing, and technology is our friend. So really tapping into technological support systems that are around as well, like ChatGPT and voice to text and all those things. So my goodness, we have navigated quite a lot in our conversation, and there have been so many gems that have been shared. I think the one that's really resonating in my head that I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about is the Africa Dyslexia Alliance, and how we collectively are going to petition our respective governments and ministers and collectively strike up a voice for the whole of the continent in not just raising awareness, but also accessing resources financially, as well as resources that can support the impact of working with dyslexic people and supporting dyslexic students. Very, very quickly, can I just take from you just literally a sentence from each of you of what you are taking away from the conversation we just had, what resonated with you, and yeah, just a sentence each really quickly. So if I start with Phyllis and then we work our way through.
Thank you, Justina, and everyone who is here. Actually, this has been a very full conversation. Very impactful, but what I'm taking is this need for more collaboration, more working together. as a team, as a supporter of each other from our different areas. You might find Nigeria education system is slightly different from ours, and from Tanzania, from Botswana. But at the end of the day, all of us are supporting the African child. And this is what is very important, that when we pull together, whatever is happening, we are all working for the African child. And working together is the key thing. You find, like in the US right now, there is the International Dyslexia Association, which has been there for 75 years. When are we going to have our first one dyslexia conference in Africa and invite them to come and join us? So this is what I'm leaving, that a long journey starts with a single step. When you want to walk fast, walk alone. When you want to go far, walk as a team. Thank you. Good night.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you. Okay. Latang, one sentence of what you're taking away from this conversation. Latang?
Oh, all right. The last thing that I can say is first of all, to thank the Africa Dyslexia Organization, Rosalind, for yet again organizing this conversation. I think she's been doing a very, very good job. And all I can say is that let us continue to shine our lights where we are until every child can read. And I think the most important thing that we need to fight for is legalizing the IEPs in Africa. That is currently what I'm working towards in Botswana, because a lot of students are referred for assessment. But when they come with an assessment report, the teacher can simply say, I am not trained. There's nothing I can do. And nobody can force me. I don't know what IEP stands for. Therefore, I think Africa Dyslexia Organization has been training for free advocates. They call for advocates. I remember I sent 2 people from my organization, Rabana and Nani, who are now advocates. I think all of us, guys, let us take advantage and send our volunteers, our volunteer teachers to some of these trainings, such that when there is a case that needs advocacy, then we can send somebody who understands, who can advocate within the parameters of dyslexia. So Africa Dyslexia Organization actually has been doing a very good job. Thank you, Rosalind. I have 2 advocates with that little certificate, but at least they have the certificate and the advocate. And
Oh.
Did we lose Latang? Okay. Oladoyin?
Thank you very much. Rosaline, as usual, we appreciate the work that you do. You're an executioner. Like, that's who you are. Sometimes we're always like, just I think we should do that. But once Rosaline thinks it, she does it. So we're very thankful for you bringing us together. One of the things that, however, stood out for me was what Coach Lola said about data doesn't lie. I'm currently planning a dialogue, a lecture dialogue, a neurodiversity dialogue conversation with all the stakeholders in the Nigerian education landscape, and to introduce them to neurodiversity. And one of the first things that I'm working on is actually showing them the research, of the dyslexia landscape in Nigeria, and then showing them examples of things that is happening in other parts of the country. But I didn't think about it in the concept of grouping parents, lived experience and not lived experience, grouping, or with an intervention, without intervention, teachers with training, without training, children with help, without help. That definitely would help to also, create case studies that would also help them see what we're saying. So I would definitely be reaching out to you, Coach Ola, because my research skills are still very, squeaky, but it's definitely something that I'm passionate about to achieve in the new year, to ensure that we start to be intentional about creating educational policies in Nigeria, or at least at the very minimum get the endorsement of the Ministry of Education for the work that we do. So that really caught my attention. Data doesn't lie. So with data, we're able to push some of these conversations. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Lola, a sentence from you, what you're taking away from this conversation.
Again, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this. Justina, Rosalind, thank you, because I'm that special person amongst us all. You reach out to me personally, like, I know I've said it, but I know you're busy. So thank you for taking me that special child amongst us all. Thank you. But what I would like to say, and I say this as a prophet, I'm speaking categorically, we have the numbers. Dyslexia Africa Alliance, we have the number, we have the voices. I see us like an onion when you keep peeling. Let's not be discouraged. We're going somewhere. It's always rough at the beginning, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's not give up. Let's keep pushing. We'll get there. I believe it. One of the reasons I'm here doing this study is because I believe in what we're about to do. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay focused. Do not be discouraged. I know funding is an issue. Let's keep pushing. We'll make that difference. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Rosalind, did we lose you? Okay, while we wait for Rosalind to come back, I just want to share that she's here. Rosalind, do you want to share a sentence?
Yes, but let's not. I think Phyllis too is here, so we don't miss her. She. Okay.
Phyllis spoke.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, I did. And
Okay.
yes,
My takeaway. I am so happy this is happening, and thank you all, sisters. And we lost our brother, Dr. Abe, due to the network. Again, challenges of Africa, but we shall overcome it. But thank you all for responding to the call for us to have this conversation again. I just cannot wait for us to really take off with Dyslexia Alliance Africa. We need it. How come the whole world? We have the International Dyslexia Association, European Dyslexia Association, even Australia Dyslexia Association. The Asians also have theirs, and the continent of Africa don't have. It does not make sense to me. And so we are going to do this and do this in the best possible way. Let's come together and make our voice heard. If we don't do it, I give you the next 3 years, the next 5 years, you will have people who are not from your continent coming to do it for you. And you'll be put aside. So let's wake up, let's tie our clothes together. And they say is together we can only go far and we can be stronger. And I just want to say to you, the parents who is watching us, that hope is not lost. Reach out to all these people. We've been sharing their names, and you can follow them on Facebook and every platform. If they're in your countries, reach out to them. They have so much support to give you. So don't feel alone. And if you are an adult with dyslexia, the hope is also not lost. Come to us. We are very much open to embrace you. And for our educators, don't feel bad that you don't know. You didn't know, but today you know. So from this moment that you know, and if you don't start changing for a new leaf, that is where we will hold you responsible. So reach out to all of us. We all have resources that we can share with you. We are sisters here. We are brothers here. So if you reach out to Lola, you are reaching out to me. If you reach out to Phyllis, you are reaching out to Oladowi. That is how we work together. And thank you so much, Justina, for hosting us today. We are grateful.
No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to double check. Phyllis, did I get your one sentence from you?
Yes, you did. But I can
Brilliant.
say thank you, and to Rosaline and everyone for even staying this long. It's been like 3 hours since we started. Yes, and
2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So thank you, and let's keep the fire burning.
Jess,
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Jess, I'm sorry. I think the
Thank
person
you.
I'm mistaken for Phyllis is Candice. Candice.
Yes, is she back on? Because I can't see her on the screen. Is she back on?
She's here, but her video is off.
Okay. Can we still hear from her?
Can you hear me?
Hey, Cordence. If
Are
you'd
you
like to share with
hearing
us
me?
a sentence, yes, we can hear you. Can you share a
Okay,
sentence of what you're taking away from
yes,
today's conversation?
yes. It makes me feel like I'm fighting with a team of strong people, and they happen to be mostly women. What makes me very proud is that I love to work with women, and I love you all. Let's keep fighting. We are getting there. Roslyn, you're a giant. I'm very proud of you, and I'm loving your leadership. Let's keep it. You keep it up. We are behind you. All of us are behind you. You have our support, and together we are going very, very far. I will feel so bad if we get other people from elsewhere to come start Dyslexia Alliance for us here in Africa. That will never happen. We are doing it. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you so much, Cordence. Absolutely, we are doing it. We are doing it. The conversation this one is ending now, but the Dyslexia Awareness Month conversations are not ending. Please join us on Tuesday. We have another amazing conversation, navigating education for your dyslexic child. It's going to be a really powerful conversation around how we support our young people. So please join us for that on all of our platforms. We'll be sharing the details on all of our platforms. I just want to thank the audience. Thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you for staying with us, for all of your questions. Sincere apologies if we didn't get to your question to answer this time, but we will find a way to get a response out to you on our platforms for the questions you answer. I know that there was one particular one about why there wasn't so many men, why women were so overrepresented in this work. So I feel like that in itself is a whole section that we need to do. So please be assured we will respond to that, and be asking our brothers, where are you? Where are you? We need you. We need you along on the fight. So please have a blessed rest of the Saturday evening and weekend. Continue to speak up, continue to share, continue to advocate, and continue to just work in your strength and in your blessings. Each and every one of you have transformed lives. You've broken ceilings and kicked doors open, and there are other doors and there are other ceilings, but you will continue. We will continue, and we will persevere. And next year, God willing, all of us will be in one place at our conference, and we will be sharing in person, and we will be just making waves in the world of accessibility and support. So thank you all once again, and good night. Have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.